Good evening, my fellow bots, and welcome to another installment of Shrouded Truth. Tonight we'll be revisiting the story of Adam Ellis, a New York City-based illustrator claiming to be haunted by the spirit of a dead child. In case you missed it, I advise you to watch part 1 before proceeding, and one thing I also want to emphasize is that although the story is being told via Twitter, I suggest that you take it as just that, a simple story. August 21st. All this ghost stuff has been spooky, but this past weekend was the first time I actually felt unsafe in my own home. On Friday night, there was supposed to be a huge storm. In the end, it passed, but that night was bizarre anyway. I fell asleep pretty early. I was incredibly tired for some reason. I had a dream that night where David was dragging me by the arm through an old abandoned warehouse. I'm not sure why I didn't fight back in the dream or how he was even strong enough to pull me, but that's dream logic for you. It was a creepy dream, but I didn't think much of it when I woke up. I took a shower and then I noticed something. I'd woken up with a huge bruise on my arm. Now look, maybe I injured myself the day before and my arm was hurting during the night, which manifested as a dream. There could totally be a logical explanation for it, so I brushed it off. I went to get coffee, which I do every weekend. When I walk to the coffee place, I always pass a food cart repair depot. It's always incredibly busy, especially on weekends. I've lived in this neighborhood for over 4 years, and the place has always been jam-packed with carts getting serviced. But today it was completely abandoned. The whole warehouse was totally gutted and empty. Well, almost empty. I went inside to look around because I was astonished that this place was suddenly empty after all these years. Basically, the only thing in the entire warehouse was a single green chair. On my way back from coffee, the warehouse had been shuttered. It's remained shuttered since. The chair, my bruise, dreaming about an empty warehouse and then passing by one, it gave me the creeps. Needless to say, I didn't sleep much that night. Too many strange things are happening, and more frequently. So, I don't know. Anyway, it was a strange weekend. August 25th. There have been a few small developments in my apartment, but I'm not really sure what to make of them. I just know I'm scared. If you recall, my cats usually gather at the door at midnight, but lately it's been getting earlier and earlier every night. I was almost used to routine, so when they started to cry at the door closer to 10 p.m., I was confused. They began a new routine. Hover around the door at 10 p.m., cry for about 15 minutes, and wander off as if nothing's wrong. But this week something else has been happening. Shortly after the usual cat stuff, around 10:30 or so, I start getting phone calls from an unmarked number. My entire call history for the past week looks like this. You'll notice that I answered once, yesterday. Since this has been happening for days on end, I thought it might be an automated telemarketer or something. Usually, if it's an automated thing, if you answer once, they quit calling, so I picked up. I didn't say anything. I just listened, waiting for some automated message to chime in. Instead, what I heard on the other end was a peculiar electrical static sound, very similar to the static my sleep app picks up at night. After about a minute, the static stopped, and there was silence. I kept listening. I heard what I thought was breathing, but it was so faint I can't be sure. My heart was racing, so it was hard to hear. And then, just as I was about to hang up, I heard a very small voice whisper hello. Something about the way they said hello freaked me out. It wasn't a question or a greeting. Just hello. A flat statement, so quiet I could barely hear it. I panicked and hung up. I didn't know what else to do. I closed all the curtains in my apartment and turned on every single light. I watched TV until dawn because I was too scared to go to sleep. I sort of feel like I'm losing my mind. If I look at each individual incident on its own, there are perfectly logical explanations for everything. But after 3 weeks of weird shit happening, I don't know how to make sense of it all. The only thing I feel like I can do right now is to write everything down, so that's what I'm doing and what I'll keep doing. August 28th. So I moved the green chair out of the bedroom a few weeks ago. It's been in various parts of the living room ever since. I should probably get rid of it, but I'm not sure that would have any effect. Also, I'm going on vacation to Japan in 3 weeks, and I keep thinking if I can make it to my trip, this will all end. As dumb as that sounds. David lost track of me when I moved, so maybe if he believes I've left the apartment again, he'll leave me alone. Anyway, last week I bought a pet monitoring camera so I can keep an eye on the cats while I'm overseas. It's basically a nanny cam that connects to Wi-Fi so you can check in whenever you want. It runs 24/7. It also alerts you to sound and movement via an app. I blacked out the company since I doubt they want to be associated with ghosts. In any event, I decided to test it out this weekend. I was away from home one night, so I set up the camera before I left. My phone pinged periodically through the evening, alerting me to the cats running around and playing. Normal stuff. Then at around 11, it alerted me again that it detected motion, but when I checked the feed of my apartment, I didn't see anything. So I watched the feed again. Still nothing. I watched it a third time and finally noticed something. Watch the chair. I knew it couldn't be the wind because I hadn't had the windows open at all this summer. I have AC and I like to keep it chilly. It was unnerving, but there wasn't anything I could do about it right then, so I flipped my phone off and just tried not to panic. About half an hour later, I got another motion alert. Here's the feed from that alert. If you missed it the first time like me, look above the shelf. It's a little turtle shell that I hung on the wall. Yes, I know it's weird to own a turtle shell, but my family lives in Montana and I picked it up last year at a native trading post. Since I've been back home, I've been too nervous to turn the camera back on, and today has been pretty quiet. That said, I feel really uneasy. I put the chair in the hall. I hope nothing else happens tonight. So I'd like to take a second to break from the narrative and point something out. Shortly after this, Adam posts again stating that the blue chair you see in the far right disappears in the second clip. He gets up to check and it seemingly reappeared without explanation. Not too long after, Adam posts again, this time stating that he'd made a mistake and that the chair never disappeared in the first place and only appeared to do so due to a shift in lighting. Now, the thing is, I did say to just take this as a story, but naturally one has to wonder if this is 100% staged or simply the product of an overactive imagination. This mistake, of course, would suggest the latter, but a few things coming up later appear to contradict that. September 5th. It's happening again. I've been leaving the nanny cam on 24/7. It records every time there's movement or sound, as you know. I was going over the feed from this weekend and noticed some weird stuff. During the night on Saturday while I slept, it recorded the cats in the living room. It seemed pretty unremarkable at first. But then, after a few moments, Maxwell freaks out and jumps over something invisible. I don't think it was a bug or anything. Maxwell doesn't react like that with bugs. He just eats them. Something spooked him. What's more, I almost never get bugs. I've seen maybe 3 in all the years I've lived here. Anyway, the next night the camera recorded a couple more strange videos. Specifically, it recorded Maxwell doing this on and off for hours. He'd sit up on his hind legs and peer around the room as if looking for something, or looking at something. This is odd behavior for him, and I can't come up with an explanation for it, especially because of the next video. Here's the final video the camera recorded that night. I suppose there's a chance it was a fly, but I honestly never get flies, so that seems unlikely. I just can't shake the feeling that something has made its way into the apartment. It is odd behavior from Maxwell in any event. Things feel off this week. I can't explain it. September 11th. Every night before bed, I go through the same routine. I feed the cats, brush my teeth, and lock every single one of these 3 locks on my door because I'm paranoid. Don't ask why my door has 3 different working locks plus what looks like the remainder of a break-in. I'd prefer not to dwell on it. Anyway, the other night I was getting ready for bed as normal. I went to the kitchen to get some cat food. I hadn't even gotten to the pantry when I heard a loud crack. It's better to just watch the video since the nanny cam records everything now. At first, I thought maybe it was one of the cats who'd knocked it over, but they were both in the bedroom. As you can see, I slid the lock immediately after realizing what was going on. I also checked it about 4 more times before bed. The thing that fell was this little knitted cactus in a terracotta planter. It's totally busted now. I live right next to a subway line, and my whole house shifts and shakes every now and then, which could explain this. I always get in my head making excuses for whatever's happening. I'm still skeptical. But now every little sound freaks me out. I leave for Japan in 2 weeks, and it can't happen soon enough. September 16th. I've been having so many nightmares lately. They're way more intense than my usual dreams, too. I don't know if it's because I'm stressed or if it's something else. This afternoon I took a nap and I had a dream I haven't been able to shake. In the dream I was laying in bed and rolled over to face the other direction. On the pillow next to me was a severed head with a bloody spine attached, snaking down the bed. The head was staring right at me, somehow still alive. It had this huge smile plastered on its face. Horrified, I screamed, "What happened to you?" The head smiled even bigger. "It feels great," the head groaned. After that, I woke up. It was dark outside by then. Everything was quiet. Other dreams have been just as strange. Things like dark figures staring in my windows even though I live on the 2nd floor. Stuff that makes no sense in relation to what I've been experiencing in real life. After that dream about the head, I've been feeling uneasy all night. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I decided to go for a walk, if for no reason than to just get out of my apartment. I went a few blocks away to get a snack. On the way, I had to pass the warehouse that was boarded up a few weeks ago. I hurried past it since it freaks me out now. When I passed the warehouse a second time, I heard a dull thunk from the other side of the shutters. I froze in place, but there was no other sound after that. I probably should have continued on, but curiosity got the better of me. There was a grated window next to the doors, about a foot above my head, too high to see into. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna hold up my phone to the window, take one photo, and then run for my life. I made sure my flash was on, positioned my camera lens through one of the grates, and snapped a photo. I almost thought I saw movement when the flash went off, but I couldn't be certain. The light bounced off the grates and was pretty blinding. I couldn't even look at the photo. I just ran all the way home. I was too jumpy to even look at it for a while. When I finally did look at the photo, here's what I saw. It seemed to be a different part of the warehouse, maybe an office. There was a bunch of old insulation and what looked like a filing cabinet and a ripped-up leather desk chair. Then I noticed something else, in the upper right corner. Something that looked like a face. The more I stared at it, the more it started to look like a nondescript blur. Now I can't even be sure what I'm seeing. Maybe I'm too deep into this and my brain wants to see David when he's not there. But here, I messed with the filters on my phone a bit. Tell me this doesn't look like him. September 22nd. The past few days have been fairly quiet. I haven't been spending much time at home. I leave for Japan in a couple hours. I've been trying to avoid anything weird before my trip. I still feel like all this might stop if I just leave for a couple weeks. Whatever happens, I want to thank everyone for their kind thoughts and concerns. This whole ordeal has been stressful and it means a lot. It makes me feel like I'm not going through this alone. See you in a couple weeks. October 2nd. It's my last full day in Japan. The past couple weeks have been pretty peaceful. I have people taking care of the cats and they say they've been doing fine. This morning, I went for a long walk around Sapporo. I never really plan my vacations. I like to just wander a lot and see what I find. I came across this statue in a park. I couldn't find any real information about it online, but it was weird and pretty. I was taking pictures of it from different angles since it's cylindrical. I moved around to one side and almost dropped my phone at what I saw. It felt too similar to be a coincidence. I felt dizzy staring up at it. This kid with a dented head. I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe this is nothing. It doesn't feel like nothing. Anyway, I have to pack for my flight home in the morning. It'll be good to see the cats again, at least. October 14th. Weird things have been happening with the electricity in my apartment this week. First, 2 bulbs have burned out in the hallway in less than a week. At this point, I've just left it alone rather than get a ladder again. But the strangest thing has to do with the backlight on my TV. It's an LED strip that plugs into the TV itself via USB. The TV has to be turned on in order for the backlight to be on, but last night the backlight was flickering on and off by itself. I noticed it just before dawn when I woke up and went into the kitchen to get some water. I'd barely gotten back into bed again when I saw a faint light come on in the living room. After a few seconds, it went dark again. I went back into the living room and stood there watching the backlight go on and off for at least a few minutes. It was bizarre. Eventually it stopped, and now the backlight doesn't work at all. It's only a couple months old, so it shouldn't be dead already. Anyway, I couldn't go back to sleep, so I went to a diner near my apartment. It was the only thing open at 4 a.m. When I got back home, the sun was starting to come up, so I figured I might as well shower and go into work early. I showered and brushed my teeth, then went into the bedroom to get dressed. As I passed the front door, I thought I heard a faint scratching sound from the other side. It was so soft I wasn't sure if it really had happened. I went over to the door, but was too scared to look through the peephole. I couldn't bring myself to actually put my face that close to the sound, so I opted to take a photo through the peephole instead. Since there's a skylight just outside my door, the hall was awash with a faint yellow-green light. I snapped a couple photos. At first, the pictures didn't seem like anything, just blurry nothingness. But as I analyzed it, I started noticing things. Part of a face. An ear and an eye staring right back at me. I think maybe it's time to get someone else involved. It's obvious this isn't going to stop until I do something. I'm just not sure what that is yet. I'll let you all know when I figure it out. October 26. Sorry for the radio silence the past couple weeks. First, I had a friend come over to do some cleansing stuff. She did the whole apartment and the hallway. A lot of self-proclaimed professional mediums have reached out, plus about a dozen ghost hunter TV shows. I've declined all of them because I don't really want strangers in my house sensationalizing what's going on. So, instead I had a friend come over and cleanse the place. For about a week or so, it seemed to have worked. Things appeared back to normal. The cats weren't gathering at the door anymore, and I stopped having dreams. It was starting to seem like it was all over. Then, one morning last week, I was walking to work and passed the shuttered warehouse as usual. This time, all the metal doors were wide open, sunlight pouring in. The warehouse was still mostly empty, except for one thing. There was a hearse parked near the back wall. The warehouse has been closed for over 2 months. I have no idea why it was open that day. Nobody was around. It was weird, but I tried not to think about it. It's not all that strange to see a hearse, I guess. Like, they have to park somewhere. I tried to put it out of my mind, and the next several days were uneventful. But something else happened last night. It was around 11 or so, and I was watching TV on the couch. I went into the dining room to get a drink from the fridge and noticed both the cat sitting on the far window staring up at it. The window looks out into the roof of the business next door. I glanced out the window but didn't see anything. I figured that maybe there was a mouse in the wall or something. I shrugged and grabbed a beer from the fridge. As I went into the kitchen to get a bottle opener, I noticed something. There's a window in the kitchen which looks out onto the same roof, and someone was standing on the roof, staring at me. I immediately ducked down. I reached up and flicked off the light switch. I peered out the window but still couldn't see much. My phone was in my pocket, so I grabbed it out and took a photo. It was blurry and dark, but I swear someone was out there. I tried to take a better photo, but the figure had disappeared. I closed all the blinds and made sure the door was locked, then drank like 5 more beers until I was too drunk to be scared. Now I feel like I'm back at square one. I'm sure it was him. He's not going away, and I don't know what to do. November 6. It's been about 4 months since the first time I dreamed of David. This might be long, but stick with me. Last night I dreamed about him again. It was almost exactly the same as the first time I saw him. In the dream, I saw him in a chair again. I don't have the green chair in my room anymore. This time it was a recliner I've had for years. He was staring right at me, just like the first time. Again, I felt paralyzed and could barely move. But this time something was different. I still felt mostly immobile, but I could squirm just a little bit. I felt more alert. I could move my hands somewhat. David glared at me, and I dreaded what I knew was coming. He was going to get out of the chair and come at me, like before. I had to do something. I keep my phone next to me on the bed, and I somehow managed to get a hold of it. I thought, if David is going to kill me, maybe I can at least get evidence on my phone. I started snapping pictures in the dark. Sure enough, he crawled down from the chair and began shuffling towards me. He moved slowly, like it was a struggle for him. I felt terrified, but I kept taking photos. David limped over closer to me, never taking his eyes off of me. Soon, I was face to face with him. He started muttering something, too quiet for me to understand. I watched as his eyes rolled back in his head until they were all white. I could barely move. I stared in horror as he began crawling up onto my bed, still murmuring something. And that's when I woke up. Same as before. Broad daylight, no trace of David anywhere. It's almost routine now, but it was a dream after all, so I got up, went to work, and after a while the stress of the dream melted away. I wasn't even going to write about this since it wouldn't really be new information, but tonight I noticed something that petrified me. I went into my phone to find a picture from a couple days ago and saw dozens of pitch black photos in my camera roll, all from last night. It's better just to show you. Turn up your brightness because they're pretty dark. This is the one that made my heart drop. Usually I can come up with some excuse for what's happening, but I have no logical explanation for this. So now I'm sitting here on my couch, freaking out. I certainly won't be able to sleep. I just felt like I needed to get this out. So there you have it. The whole Dear David story up until now. As I said earlier, this whole thing pretty much appeared to be the product of creepy coincidences and an overactive imagination. But the photos of David definitely throw us for a loop. We have 3 different photos, all from slightly varying angles. The thing is, the previous photos of David could be written off, but these ones, not so much. We can't really say that this is something else that was mistaken for David, so that leaves us with either Photoshop or this being some kind of doll or prop. I'd like to issue out a challenge. If you think that you can recreate these photos somehow, then please do and tweet them to me. I may use them in the next video if I do make one. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.